My sister-in-law had promised to ruin me, and she nearly did when she left a bag of stolen jewelry in my car, setting me up. She didn't realize I had installed a dashcam, and the footage put an end to her game once and for all. That day began like any other. I arrived at work, coffee in hand, mentally bracing myself for another long day. The usual buzz of conversation and ringing phones filled the air as my colleagues settled into their routines. Nothing seemed off, not until they arrived. A group of uniformed officers entered the building, their presence slicing through the office chatter like a knife. People turned, eyes widening, as the officers marched toward my desk. My stomach tightened, dread creeping over me. "Are you Emily Carter?" one officer asked, his voice firm and unwavering. I barely had time to nod before he continued. "You're under arrest for grand larceny. Put your hands where we can see them." For a moment I thought I'd misheard him. Grand larceny? The words barely made sense, but my body stiffened, heart pounding in my chest. I felt the stares burning into my skin. "This has to be a mistake," I whispered, my voice trembling. "I haven't done anything." But they weren't listening. The officer closest to me grabbed a pair of handcuffs, and the cold metal snapped around my wrists, the sharp click echoing in my ears. "Emily!" My manager Daniel stepped forward, his face reflecting the shock I felt. "What's going on?" I don't know," I choked out, panic bubbling inside me. Turning to the officers, I pleaded, "Please, this has to be a misunderstanding." "Ma'am, you have the right to remain silent." One officer began reading me the Miranda rights as they led me toward the exit. Around me, whispers filled the air, and I caught sight of Karen, the office gossip, already pulling out her phone, no doubt eager to spread the news. This wasn't happening. It had to be some kind of joke. But it wasn't. As they dragged me through the office, my eyes scanned the room, desperately searching for someone to help. Instinctively, I reached for my phone, fumbling for the speed dial button for my husband, Ryan. He answered on the first ring. "Ryan," I gasped, my voice shaking. "I'm being arrested. You need to come." Before I could say more, an officer grabbed the phone from my hand. "You can make your call at the station," he said, hanging up with a swift press. I stared in horror, not understanding what was happening or why I was being accused. The drive to the police station felt like a blur. The world outside passed in fast forward, yet time crawled. My hands, still cuffed, rested stiffly in my lap as I tried to make sense of it all. When we arrived, I was led down a series of grey hallways into a small interrogation room. The walls were bare except for a single mirror, one I knew was there for surveillance. A cold metal table stood in the centre with 2 chairs facing each other. I sat there alone, my mind spinning as the minutes dragged on. Finally, the door creaked open and 2 detectives entered, their faces unreadable. "Emily Carter," the man said as if confirming my identity. "Do you know why you're here?" I swallowed, my throat dry. "No," I whispered. "I don't." He opened a manila folder and slid it across the table. Inside were photographs. My stomach dropped. Expensive jewellery, necklaces, bracelets, earrings, items unmistakably valuable. "These," the detective said, "were reported stolen 2 days ago from the Carter family estate. They were found in your car this morning." "My car?" My voice trembled. No, I didn't." The female detective with a tight ponytail leaned forward, pushing another photo across the table. It was a black duffel bag, unzipped and filled with jewellery, sitting in the trunk of my car. "I don't know," I gasped, shaking my head. "That's not mine. I don't even own a bag like that." The male detective's eyes narrowed. "Do you expect us to believe someone else put it there?" I clenched my fists, my mind racing. I knew what had happened. Someone had framed me, and I already had a sickening feeling about who it was. The door creaked open again, and my breath caught in my throat. Olivia, my sister-in-law, entered. Her expression was a picture of feigned concern. She wore a sleek coat, her long brown hair perfectly curled, and her face wore the mask of a compassionate family member. "Emily," she whispered, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. "Are you okay?" I stared at her, frozen. I didn't speak, just watched as she lied to my face. "Detectives," she said, turning to them with a shake of her head. "There must be some mistake. Emily isn't a thief." Her words twisted my stomach. Was she mocking me? She was the reason I was here, yet she had the audacity to pretend to care. "We just have some questions for her," the detective replied, his tone neutral. Olivia nodded, her expression softening. "Of course, whatever you need." She turned back to me, her voice dropping to a low murmur. "Don't worry," she said, her hand brushing my wrist in a false gesture of comfort. "I'll talk to Ryan. We'll figure this out." "Ryan." Panic surged again. "Can I make my call now?" My voice cracked with desperation. The female detective nodded, handing me my phone. I dialed Ryan's number again, but this time he didn't answer. Voicemail. My throat tightened. Where was he? Why wasn't he picking up? I placed the phone down, my hands trembling as I clenched them into fists. I was on my own. And as I looked back at Olivia, who smiled softly as though nothing was wrong, I realized the truth. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a trap, and Olivia had made her biggest mistake. Sitting in that sterile room, her fake sympathy still lingering in the air, I knew it wasn't just painful, it was infuriating. Olivia had set me up, and I could see the amusement in her eyes. She had always thrived on deception, but this was a new level of cruelty. She wasn't just a liar, she was an artist at it, and she was enjoying every second of it. I had been part of the Carter family long enough to know Olivia's history, stories of missing money, misplaced jewelry, and strange disappearances. Ryan had always made excuses for her, but I knew better. This time, her lies had gone too far. Somehow, no matter how suspicious the circumstances, Olivia was never to blame. Ryan's parents, Margaret and Richard Carter, always turned a blind eye. They dismissed every accusation against Olivia with a wave of the hand, treating them as harmless mistakes or, worse, deliberate lies made by people jealous of her. I remember when my mother-in-law lost her wedding ring, an heirloom passed down for generations. It was a massive ordeal. Servants were questioned, the house was torn apart, and accusations were thrown. Olivia had been staying with them at the time, yet no one dared to question her. A week later, the ring mysteriously reappeared in the kitchen, stuffed into the pocket of the housemaid's apron. The maid was fired immediately. I always wondered if Olivia had planted it there. Then there was the incident with her ex-best friend, Jessica. Jessica had trusted Olivia with a family bracelet, one encrusted with diamonds, and shortly after, the bracelet went missing. The police got involved, but Olivia turned the situation around, painting Jessica as a paranoid, unstable woman who had simply misplaced her own jewelry. No charges were ever filed. Jessica, humiliated, left town. And yet, a few months later, Olivia showed up to a party wearing a bracelet eerily similar to the one Jessica had lost. Her past was riddled with similar stories, all ending the same way. Olivia walked away unscathed, while someone else took the fall. And now I was the next name on her list. From the moment I married Ryan, I had felt like an outsider. It wasn't outright hostility, at least not at first. It was subtle. Exclusions, dismissive smiles, inside jokes I was never part of. At family gatherings, Olivia was the golden child, and I was the wife of their son. Not a daughter, not family, just an attachment to Ryan. I had tried. God, I had tried. I played the part of the dutiful daughter-in-law, attended the charity events, made small talk with Margaret's snobby friends, and even bit my tongue when Olivia made snide remarks about my middle-class upbringing. But it was never enough. Margaret always clung to Olivia, blindly defending her no matter how reckless, irresponsible, or cruel she was. Ryan did the same. No, now, when Olivia had framed me for a crime I didn't commit, they didn't even hesitate before believing her. I had been naive to think they would ever take my side. Looking back, the signs had been there all along. A week before my arrest, small things started going missing from my home. Nothing major, just enough to make me doubt myself. A pair of earrings I swore I had left on my nightstand, a bracelet that vanished from my jewelry box, only to reappear days later in my car's cup holder. At first, I thought I was just being forgetful. Then there were the scratches on my car door. Deep, deliberate marks that hadn't been there before. Ryan brushed it off, saying it was probably a careless driver in a parking lot, but something about it didn't sit right. Then there was Olivia's sudden kindness. She had never been particularly warm toward me, but a few days before my arrest she changed. She started calling, checking in on me, offering to help with errands. At first, I assumed she was just in one of her good phases, the rare moments where she pretended to be sweet and supportive. But now I knew she had been preparing the trap. The only reason I had installed a hidden dashcam was because of the scratches on my car. I didn't expect it to be the thing that would save me. After my arrest, when I was finally released on bail, I couldn't stop thinking about those missing items, those tiny moments that hadn't made sense. And then it hit me. My dashcam had been running that night. I rushed home, heart pounding, and retrieved the footage. I sat on my bed, laptop open, hands trembling as I clicked play. And there she was. Olivia, clear as day, wearing her expensive coat and high heels, sneaking into my car. She moved with practiced ease, placing a black duffel bag in my trunk before carefully closing it. She paused, glanced around, then walked away like nothing happened. I felt like I was going to be sick. She had done this before, so many times to others, to me, and she had expected to get away with it. Not this time. I replayed the footage over and over, committing every second to memory. Then, I did something Olivia had never expected. I didn't go straight to the police. I was going to make sure she regretted this for the rest of her life, because Olivia had spent her whole life framing others. This time, I was framing her. And I wasn't just going to clear my name, I was going to destroy hers. I sat on my bed, the laptop screen casting a cold glow on my face as I replayed the dash cam footage. Olivia's face, her smug, careless expression as she planted the bag of stolen jewelry in my trunk, was burned into my memory. I could have gone to the police right then and there. I could have walked into the station, handed them the footage, and let them take her away. But that would have been too easy. She needed to feel the walls closing in on her just like I had. I shut my laptop and took a deep breath, steadying myself. No, I wouldn't rush this. I would wait. Watch. Let Olivia think she had won. Because if there was one thing I knew about her, it was this. She always overplayed her hand. The next morning I did something that felt like swallowing glass. I called Olivia. She picked up on the first ring, her voice honey-sweet. "Emily, oh my God, are you okay?" I gritted my teeth. I don't know," I whispered, forcing my voice to tremble. "Ryan won't return my calls. Your parents won't even look at me. I don't know what to do." I could almost hear her smile on the other end, a small exhale of satisfaction. "I know, sweetie. It's a mess, but you have to stay strong." She spoke as if she cared, but I could hear it, the quiet triumph in her tone. She thought she had broken me. "I just don't understand how this happened," I continued, my voice weak. "The police said the jewelry was in my car, but I never put it there, Olivia. I feel like someone set me up." Another pause, this time sharper. "Emily, you're not suggesting someone framed you, are you?" Her voice was calm, but there was something else beneath it, a warning. I let out a shaky sigh. No, of course not. God, I don't know. I feel like I'm losing my mind." She laughed softly. "Oh, honey, you just need rest. Stay low for a while, this will all blow over." I closed my eyes, gripping the phone tighter. "Thank you, Olivia. I don't know what I'd do without you." She sighed happily, like a predator settling into a warm den. That's what family is for. She had no idea I was about to bury her. For the next week I played my part. I avoided calls, kept my head down, and let the rumours spread. I could feel the shift. People in Ryan's family whispering about me, pitying me, doubting me. And Olivia, she thrived in the chaos. She started showing up at family gatherings without me, playing the concerned sister-in-law, shaking her head as she fed them half-truths. "She's devastated," I overheard her telling someone at a charity event. "She won't even leave the house. It's so sad. Do you think she really did it?" Another voice, softer, hesitant, a perfectly timed pause from Olivia. "Things I just don't know anymore." And just like that, she planted the seed. I let it happen. Let her enjoy her victory, because the higher she climbed, the harder she would fall. I knew Olivia wasn't satisfied with just ruining my reputation. She had done this before. She loved to make sure her victims never got back up. And sure enough, she couldn't help herself. It started small. A fake anonymous tip to my employer, suggesting I had a history of stealing. They dismissed it, but I made sure to document the call. Then a mysterious email to Ryan from a burner account, implying I had been hiding things from him. I printed the email and traced its origin. Olivia's personal laptop. And then, the final nail in her coffin. A second planted theft. One morning I found an envelope slipped under my apartment door. Inside, a gold necklace. Olivia wasn't even being subtle anymore. She wanted me arrested. That was the moment I knew it was time. Olivia's wedding rehearsal dinner was the event of the season. A grand, extravagant gathering of the wealthy and elite, filled with glittering chandeliers, expensive champagne, and whispers of power. Her fiancé, Daniel Whitmore, came from old money, the kind of family that valued image above all else. Olivia had played the perfect role, the poised, flawless bride-to-be. I had to make sure that when she fell hard. And I had the perfect plan. I arrived at the venue dressed in subdued elegance. A simple black dress, no jewellery, no excess. Just a quiet presence in a room filled with noise. People noticed. I felt the stares, the whispers. What is she doing here? Why would Olivia invite her? They thought I was here to beg for forgiveness. They had no idea I was about to destroy the entire evening. I waited until everyone was seated, champagne flutes in hand, laughter ringing through the ballroom. Olivia was glowing, standing at the head of the room, soaking in the adoration. I stood and the room fell silent. I turned to Olivia, my voice steady. I wanted to say something. She looked at me, her lips curving into a cruel smirk. "Emily, sweetie, this isn't really the time." "Oh, but it is," I said, pulling a small remote from my clutch. With one click, the ballroom's projector screen lit up. The footage played. Olivia sneaking into my car. Olivia planting the stolen jewellery. Olivia walking away like nothing had happened. The room erupted. Her fiancé stood frozen, his face draining of colour. Gasps, murmurs, shock. I watched as Olivia's world collapsed, and as she turned to me, her face twisted in fury, I leaned in and whispered, "Checkmate." She had spent her whole life playing games, but this time she lost. The moment Olivia's world shattered, the entire ballroom fell into stunned silence. It was as if time itself had frozen. The murmur of conversation, the clinking of champagne glasses, the soft hum of the orchestra. Everything stopped. On the massive screen behind me, the footage continued to play, the security timestamp flickering in the corner. Olivia dressed in her usual designer coat, opening my car door. Olivia carefully placing the black duffel bag in my trunk. Olivia walking away like nothing had happened. I turned back to face the crowd. All eyes were on her now. Her fiancé, Daniel, stood motionless, his face pale, eyes locked onto the screen. His parents, seated at the front, looked like they had been hit by a freight train. Margaret and Richard, Olivia's parents, were frozen in their seats, their fingers tightening around their glasses. But they said nothing. I watched Olivia, waiting for the moment when the reality of her downfall would set in. And then it happened. She laughed, It was sharp, forced, too loud, a brittle, almost hysterical sound that made the already uncomfortable silence even heavier. "Oh, come on," she scoffed, flipping her hair back. "You're really doing this? Playing edited footage to embarrass me at my own wedding rehearsal?" I stared at her. Was she seriously going to deny it? Before I could respond, Daniel finally spoke. "What the hell is this, Olivia?" His voice was strained, shaking, softer than I expected. Olivia turned to him, her expression instantly shifting to one of mock hurt. "Daniel, sweetheart, this is ridiculous." She gestured at the screen. "This is fake. This is just Emily trying to ruin my night because she's bitter that she got caught stealing." I could almost admire her audacity. Almost. I stepped forward, my heels clicking against the polished floor. "Fake? You're calling security footage fake?" I let out a soft chuckle. "You should have been more careful, Olivia. The timestamps don't lie. The camera doesn't lie." Daniel's eyes flickered between the screen and Olivia, doubt creeping into his face. "Is this true?" he asked, his voice lower now. She hesitated, just for a fraction of a second, but it was enough. Her gaze darted to her parents, seeking backup. Margaret was gripping Richard's arm so tightly her knuckles had gone white, but neither of them spoke. He turned to Ryan, my husband, or rather the man who had once been my husband in everything but legal terms. He had nothing to say either. For the first time in her life, Olivia had no one to clean up her mess. Her voice wavered. "Daniel, you can't actually believe this, can you?" She let out a hollow laugh, reaching for his hand. "You know me." His jaw tightened, but he didn't pull away, not yet. "This isn't me," she pleaded, desperation finally creeping in. I would never do something like this. But now people in the crowd were whispering. Someone at the back murmured, "Didn't she get accused of stealing before?" Her ex-friend, what's her name, Jessica? I heard the same thing. Olivia heard them too. Her mask started cracking and I watched her scramble, grasping for an escape. "Mom!" She turned to Margaret, her voice high and panicked. "Mom, tell them." Margaret opened her mouth, then closed it. Finally, she let out a breath. "I think you've done enough, Olivia." And just like that, her last lifeline snapped. "Fine," Olivia muttered, her tone suddenly shifting. "Fine, you know what? I did it. But it wasn't my idea." I raised a brow. "Oh, this should be good." She turned back to Daniel, grasping his arm. "Now, baby, listen to me. I was being blackmailed. That's why I had to do it. Emily was threatening me. She said she'd tell people horrible things about me if I didn't frame her." Ryan finally spoke, his voice flat, emotionless. "That's the best you could come up with? Blackmail?" I almost laughed. This was just sad now. Daniel pulled his arm away, finally stepping back from her. His expression was cold now. "How much of what you've told me has been a lie?" Her lower lip trembled. "Daniel, please don't do this. This isn't what it looks like. I love you." But he wasn't listening anymore. He took one last look at her, a long, disgusted stare, before turning around and walking out of the ballroom. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone in the back whispered, "He left her." I could see the horror dawn on Olivia's face. Daniel was gone. Her carefully built-up life was falling apart, and she still didn't know the worst part. The silence was broken by a new voice. Olivia Carter. The crowd parted as two uniformed officers stepped forward. Olivia's entire body stiffened. One of them pulled out a warrant. "You're under arrest for falsifying evidence, obstruction of justice, and attempted fraud. You have the right to remain silent." Olivia's eyes went wide. "What? No, 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 you can't do this. I didn't do anything. The officer grabbed her wrist and started cuffing her. "Daniel, please tell them to stop," she screamed. "Ryan, help me, Mom, Dad, say something." But no one spoke. No one moved. I took a step closer, just enough to whisper, "You did this to yourself." She turned to me, her expression morphing from desperation to rage. You ruined me," she shrieked, but her words were cut off as the officers led her away. I stood there, watching as the doors closed behind them, her screaming fading into nothing. And then, for the first time in weeks, I breathed. It was over. She was finally gone. The night Olivia fell, she lost everything. Her fiancé had walked out, leaving her standing alone in front of a crowd that once admired her. Her parents, the same people who had always shielded her from consequences, sat frozen in shock, unable to lift a finger to help her this time. And then, the ultimate humiliation. The police taking her away in handcuffs. Her desperate screams echoed in the grand ballroom. For the first time in her life, there was no escape, no excuses, no one left to manipulate. And for the first time in mine, I was free. The morning after the disaster, Ryan showed up at my door. I almost didn't answer. I should have left him standing there the way he had left me when I needed him the most. But a part of me, maybe out of curiosity, maybe for closure, opened the door. He looked terrible. His usually neat appearance was a mess. Dark circles under his eyes, his hands shoved into his pockets like a child caught stealing. "Emily," he said, his voice rough, "can we talk?" I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "About what, Ryan? How you abandoned me? How you never questioned Olivia even for a second?" His jaw tightened, guilt flashing in his eyes. I was wrong. I let out a soft, humorless laugh. "Yeah, you were." "I should have believed you," he admitted, his voice cracking slightly. "I should have seen through her. I was so blind." I didn't say anything. There was nothing left to say. "Emily, I miss you." His voice softened. "I want to fix this." I met his gaze, steady, unwavering. "Ryan," I said, my voice calm but firm, "some things can't be fixed." The realization hit him then. The truth he had been avoiding. I wasn't coming back, and I wasn't sorry for it. I packed my bags that afternoon, not because I had been forced out, not because I had to run from a family that had never truly welcomed me, but because I chose to leave. I didn't need their approval anymore. I didn't need Ryan's apologies or Margaret's forced politeness. I had spent years trying to belong in a place that had never truly been mine, and I was done. As I walked out of that house for the last time, I felt lighter than I had in years. This wasn't just about clearing my name. It wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming my life. Justice wasn't just about seeing Olivia punished. It wasn't about making her suffer. It was about freedom. And as I stepped forward into the unknown, I knew one thing for certain. I was finally free.